Hello, and welcome to Spirit Among Us. This week we've been talking about getting rid of our old selves, doing away with the life of sin and evil that we once lived in. It's what we are being called to do as Christians. As followers of Jesus, we are called not only to let go of those things that are sinful and evil, but actually put them to death, to get rid of the old body of sin. But that's not all that we're told to do. While we are called to get rid of the things that are bad, we are also called to take on the things that are good. And that is what we are looking at today. So let's continue reading in Colossians chapter 3, this time in verses 12 through 13. Put on then, as God's chosen ones, holy and beloved, compassionate hearts, kindness, humility, meekness, and patience, bearing with one another, and if one has a complaint against another, forgiving each other. As the Lord has forgiven you, so you also must forgive. So to start out these verses, Paul reminds us why we are doing this. We are God's chosen ones. If we have come to Christ, if we have the Holy Spirit living inside of us, we are His chosen ones, and we are made holy and beloved to Him. Now because of that, because we've been changed and loved in this radical way, we are called to do these things. Put on compassionate hearts, kindness, humility, meekness, and patience, bearing with one another and forgiving each other. Now I think sometimes one of the hardest things of all these is humility and forgiveness. But the nice thing is that they go hand in hand. Humility, because we have a natural tendency to want to build ourselves up, to seek after the things that we alone want, and to seek those things above all else. But that is not what we are being called to do. And that's not what the life of Christ has shown us. We also don't tend to want to forgive each other too easily. When someone has wronged us, that makes us upset. When they've sinned or done something evil against us, we get upset, and we don't want to offer forgiveness. This can be especially hard if the other person isn't sorry for what they did. That's when it's really a challenge. When they did it and they're glad they did it. Oh, then it's really hard to forgive. But even to the people that it seems impossible to forgive, we are still called to this. So I think to answer these two things, it really comes down to humility. We need to remember who we are. While these other people that we need to forgive may not be worthy of our forgiveness, we need to remember that we aren't worthy of forgiveness. Now, that's a humbling thought, isn't it? We need to remember that our God has shown us unmerited grace, completely undeserved grace and forgiveness. We do not deserve the sacrifice that Christ paid for us. We don't deserve a life of freedom in Him. We don't deserve an eternity spent in His presence. We are so far from deserving that. It is complete grace from God. So when we remember that, when we remember that we don't even deserve an ounce of forgiveness from God, that will help us to forgive. So in these verses, Paul talks about all kinds of specific things that we are called to put on, attributes that we are supposed to adopt as followers of Jesus. And then he continues in verses 14 and 15, kind of summing everything up. Let's take a look. And above all these, put on love, which binds everything together in perfect harmony. And let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts, to which indeed you are called in one body, and be thankful. Paul says, above all these specific things that you can do to put on the new self, put on love. That is the most important thing. Now, I think there are several reasons he says that. For one thing, we can remember that Jesus told us the greatest commandment is to love God and to love our neighbor. The two greatest commandments are all about love. Now, another reason I think he's saying this is because all of the things he's already mentioned, compassionate hearts, kindness, patience, bearing with one another, forgiveness, all of these flow out of love. When we truly care about someone, we're going to have compassion. We're going to be kind with them, to be patient with them. When we really love someone, we're not going to care so much about being right when they have wronged us, but we'll instead care more about the relationship that's severed between us and them, and seek to restore that bond. And it's for this reason that he is able to say, love binds everything together in perfect harmony. Now, that sounds pretty great. That's a pretty all-encompassing statement. So when we are called to live these new lives serving Jesus, when we are called to be followers of him, we're called not only to reject our old ways, to get rid of the life of sin, but also to take on this new self, this life of Christ-likeness. And Paul states in these verses that the most important thing for us to do is to put on love, because love binds everything together in perfect harmony. Thank you for watching, and God bless.